Hey, everybody. It's a Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. Happy to have you with me in Stockholm. That's right. I'm still on the road. I will be back in New York in a couple of weeks. And then from there, I will head to Los Angeles and from there back to Chicago. I'm very excited to be speaking at Plant-Based World Expo. I hope that you will join me when I'm in New York, September 8th and 9th. I'll be talking about plant-based innovation investing in the private markets, venture capital, as well as the public stock market. So I hope that you'll join me. I'm speaking on September 9th, but I'm meeting with a bunch of people September 8th and September 9th. So I hope that you will join me at the Javits Center at Plant-Based World Expo just when you're done with a vacation of your own. Also, something I'll be talking about most definitely in New York is the numbers that have come out recently that plant-based in the fresh aisle is down significantly. According to some sources, I take issue with that. July 22 over July 21, very difficult to cherry pick special months. It's something we talk about a lot in finance. Can't cherry pick your data. So I take issue with some of that data. But on the flip side, if the fresh aisle is having trouble, the frozen aisle in plant-based is really knocking it out of the park. So I will be talking about all of those stats and figures and new investing perspectives in New York. You have to join me. Okay, from Stockholm, I want to talk now about Chicago. I'm going to bring on my guests today, Kimberly Frey from Ingredion and Dani Zuchovicki. I hope I'm saying everybody's name right here from Chicago's The Hatchery, and Chef Nelson Serrano Bahri, who's with Ingredion but is borrowed by The Hatchery. So I split my time Chicago, Los Angeles, and he splits his time Ingredion and Chicago's The Hatchery. I'm so happy to have all of you with me today. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Elizabeth.
So we have so much to talk about, and mostly I want to talk about how annoying it is for people to consider Los Angeles as a plant-based hub, San Francisco as a plant-based hub, New York, Brooklyn, sometimes even Miami. What they don't realize is Chicago will be and always has been a plant-based hub. Let's talk about that a little bit. First, before I dive into some very fun stats, I want to bring on Dani to talk about what is the hatchery in Chicago and what are you doing to build a plant-based community in the city?
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I'm Dani and I'm the membership and community manager at the Hatchery Chicago, and we are a nonprofit food and beverage incubator located on the west side of Chicago, where we are entrepreneur centric. We have an entrepreneurial spirit. I have a background as owning my own business as well as in the culinary space. So I've been through a lot of the hurdles and challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs face, but also a lot of the wins behind the way too. So our team is very well versed in the way to provide pathways for entrepreneurs to grow, launch, and scale their businesses. And we have amazing partners like Ingredion that join us at the Hatchery. Nelson's actually there live right now in in his R&D kitchen, where he has an open door policy where he allows entrepreneurs to come in and test concepts. I get to work on site with him and be able to taste and ideate all together with our entrepreneurs as well. So we have a variety of programs designed for entrepreneurs who are, just starting to concepts that are a little bit more fleshed out. We offer classes on a weekly basis, both virtual and in person. We are launching a hybrid model starting in September with our Starting a Food Business class. So that is a monthly class that we host where we talk about the ins and outs of operating a food and beverage business. So that's a little bit about what we do.
Wow. So much really to unpack there. I think of you as such a vital part of the city because for those who don't know, I want to give folks a little bit of background about Chicago. So Chicago has historically always been a big food city. So if you imagine centrally located, and it's where, we grow all the corn and soy, of course, but more also from the meat packing perspective, animals used to be shipped in and were slaughtered, butchered. It was known as the slaughterhouse capital of the world. Maybe not our finest moment there, but has a long rooted history in meat, but as well as vegetarian and veganism. So right around, I want to say 1904, Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle, primarily about the working conditions in slaughterhouses. not so different today, actually. But people took an uproar to this, and they really advocated for better systems in slaughterhouses for people and then ultimately for animals as well. So that runs very true to this city. And then as well, in 1893, we had the Chicago World's Fair, and the Vegetarian Society had come over from London to Philadelphia, but Philadelphia went to Chicago to take a booth and talk about vegetarianism for the first time publicly. I say vegetarianism because the word vegan wasn't coined until 1944. So Chicago is both the slaughterhouse capital of the world and then in many ways the birthplace of vegetarianism in the United States. So a very unique city, and it is the only city in the world that has a vegan museum. Yes, that's headquartered in Chicago. So that's its meat versus vegetarian perspective. But from a food perspective, Quaker Oats is headquartered there. Kraft is headquartered there. Ingredion is in Illinois, right outside of Chicago. ADM, so many major food corporations and food packaging companies in Chicago. So there's this long-standing established food history. But the Hatchery is cultivating the new generation of food entrepreneurs. Chef, I don't know if you'll be able to speak to this, but what kind of chefs come to the Hatchery? What are they looking for from you as a chef and then also as an entrepreneur? Because a food business is a business like no other.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really anybody and everybody that wants to make it in the food world or wants to start their own business finds the Hatchery as that bridge that connects what you are doing at home with products that you can actually commercialize and legally sell. So the Hatchery provides the infrastructure and the framework that you need, plus the resources, not only from the Hatchery staff like Dani and her staff, but also from private companies like Ingredion, Griffith Food, Synergy, Kellogg's, we all call the Hatchery home, to provide those resources and knowledge of the industry and how to properly commercialize food products into the market. And they come looking for that. And I think we provide what they need in order to help them grow and foster their businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So key there. Dani, maybe you can talk about why it's important to grow a food culture and a food business culture, what it means to the city in terms of jobs, growth, bringing in tourism, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. That is actually part of our mission. And one of the things that we do is we want to encourage economic development and job creation. And through that way, we do it within our incubator space. So our intention is that anyone who comes through the Hatchery, we're grateful that they choose us as their starting point and their first home for their business. But ultimately, our goal is that they grow significantly. So they start off in our shared kitchen space. So our facility is about 67,000 square feet. And we have a shared kitchen that entrepreneurs can book hourly, and that's usually where we start them off. So that way they can have that proof of concept. And having that ecosystem readily available with other entrepreneurs is key, because that's where you're able to do some information sharing. You're able to connect with one another. We've seen some beautiful collaborations between our entrepreneurs be born out of the shared kitchen space. Right now, two of our companies actually that are doing plant-based businesses. One of them is Carolyn's Crisp. She does the British style crisps. She's got a cheddar cheese flavor as well as maple pecan and then a cinnamon crisp. You can find them in Foxtrot as well as several other retailers around in Chicago. She's partnered with an ice cream company at the Hatchery called Bartleby's Artisanal Ice Creams, and she makes these amazing ice creams that are, handmade. Each one is hand-packed and handcrafted. So they partnered. She's made a vegan ice cream, and she does ice cream sandwiches with Carolyn's Crisps. So they're definitely a fan favorite. They're so good. They're so good. But that's where having that opportunity in the shared kitchen is huge, because that's where they met. And we're able to create those networking events and being able to have the entrepreneurs connect with one another. From there, once they're scaling and usually in their kitchen in the shared kitchen from 35 hours to 40 hours a week, that's when we sit down with them and have a candid conversation about their growth. Not entrepreneurs, they're so in the thick of their business that they can't take the time to take a step back and realize where they're at with revenue. I get to have some great conversations with them where they realize that they've made so much money that in order for them to continue making more money, they need to get into a private kitchen. And so that's where it's an easier pathway, because they go from their shared kitchen where they have all the equipment there to we working with us and, you know, many people, many of our partners, like Nelson mentioned, to help them outfit their kitchen so that way it's conducive to their business needs. And then lastly, our ultimate goal is that they incubate out. You know, we don't want them in our kitchens forever. We want them to be able to give back to the community by investing in a facility for themselves. On the west side is definitely what we hope that they'll choose, because our neighborhood on the west side in Garfield Park is a vibrant, untapped community of talented chefs and entrepreneurs and job seekers. So it's a really great place for entrepreneurs to continue growing and scaling their businesses. A lot of people don't realize that actually the hatchery, the space where it is the old Nabisco factory that used to be there. So a lot of the kitchen space, the whole kitchen space area, that's completely new, but where our storage facility area is, that actually used to be part of that facility. So lots of food history in this area.
And Nabisco was a Chicago company, headquartered originally in Chicago. So yes, so much history in the city. When I think of the plant-based sector, I think of so many companies needing co-manufacturing space. Now, co-manufacturing is a step once the companies have really left the coop. They've flown the coop, they've left the incubator, and they've really grown to needing a co-manufacturer. Is that something you would help companies with down the line, or is that out of your realm?
We do. I will say that there's a lot of resources out there, and I'm so grateful to Nelson because he always comes back from a certain conference with this Bible of co-manufacturing. And so we're able to geek out together with this big Bible of co-manufacturing. But certainly that's a lot of the stuff that we support. We have a class on, you know, picking the right co-packer or co-manufacturer, developing a contract with a co-manufacturer. We actually recently had Irene of Effie's homemade cookies. They're these oat cakes that are absolutely delicious. She's based out of Boston, and she was able to share with our entrepreneurs about how difficult it is to find a co-manufacturer. It's like dating, to be quite honest.
Oh, you should be so lucky. It's harder than dating.
Exactly.
And dating's hard.
So that's a lot of the stuff that we do. I want to say maybe we're the Bumble of co-manufacturing. Who knows?
That's great. Yeah, no, I'm going to hit you up like after this interview, just because so many of my clients, I still work with a lot of plant-based clients, and they're really searching. So I know Chicago is just a wealth of knowledge and of expertise in this area. I do have so many questions for Ingredion's Kimberly Frey, and I want to talk to her about how we're building the plant-based sector locally and globally. But before I head to her, one more question for Chef Nelson that I think is particular to Chicago. So many different neighborhoods and nationalities represented in Chicago itself. I think it is, oh gosh, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but I think it is the second largest Polish population outside of Warsaw. Do I have that right? It is a wealth of blended nations, Mexican, Armenian, just Middle Eastern, South American, and European, all over the world. So, Chef, I'm wondering how many different world global flavors come through your kitchen? Chefs that are trying to really go beyond American meat and potatoes, plant-based meat and potatoes.
Oh my God, I would have to say probably countless.
Yeah.
I think we've lost count, but I will say you do get a wealth of knowledge and flavor from all of these. One of the participants during the plant-based cook-off was Middle Eastern, and they presented a Middle Eastern dish. So that was absolutely delicious. And we work with everything: Jamaican patties, candies from Eastern Europe, cookies from Northern Europe, and filled pastries, and I mean, you name it. It is truly incredible the amount of diversity that goes through in and out of the hatchery constantly. We have this small company here that runs a ghost kitchen, Vietnam Nam, the most amazing Vietnamese bowls and soups, and and stews. So everything. I countless. The answer to your question is countless, but it's absolutely marvelous to see like the amount of creativity that can come from all of that.
This is why I say it's so annoying that Chicago's often overlooked by Los Angeles and New York.
Agreed.
It's annoying. Let's just say it what it is. It's annoying. When we talk about these international global flavors, I think of another Chicago company that I love, Rumi Spices. She does wonderful spices from the Middle East and really bringing out those flavors and, fair trade. I love her. But as I mentioned her, I also want to mention a bunch of other plant-based companies. This is the long list that I have, and maybe if you guys have more, tell me. I have Rumi Spices, Vegan Us, Chicago Vegan Finer Foods. They do Dandy's marshmallows, just so gosh darn good. Cool Beans, Nature's Find. They're like one of the most successful fundraised, if I can say that, companies. I think they have over 150 million, with Bill Gates being one of their investors. They've done quite well. Upton's Naturals, really one of the originals, the OG, if you will. Quaker Oats. They're not small, but at least they're plant-based. Of course, Ingredion, and then we have other. Griffith is there as well, working in food. Mycoprotein, the startup Aquaculture, ADM. I mean, really, it's just a lot is going on in Chicago and around. And so maybe, Kimberly, you can fill us in on Ingredion, a multinational company. We're really known for its starches. Why Ingredion has decided to shift in a very considerable way to the plant-based sector, and what you're focusing on there.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, thank you for the introduction. I serve as the global product line manager for Ingredion. And as you mentioned, we have a deep history of starch and sweeteners, but we recognize the need for protein and the importance, to be quite frank, of infiltrating protein into the world's population, right? And so that was an opportunity that we recognized, and we really went all in. Over the past few years, we've invested over $250 million in two manufacturing sites in North America, one located in Vanscoy, Saskatchewan, and one located in South Sioux City, Nebraska. And between those two plants, we manufacture a variety of plant-based products. So, you've got your flours, and you've got your isolates, which are the highest level of protein content, and then your concentrates as well. And recently we've expanded into our SVP program, which is structured vegetable proteins. And we're now going into some other newer spaces too. So looking forward to what the future holds with Ingredion. I think we are a global company, but working directly with the Hatchery and leveraging Ingredion's relationship with the Hatchery is very important, because we want to stay true to our roots and our community, engage the community as much as we can. And while we have these large multinational customers, right, we also have customers in the local startups as well. So we want to be the premier protein supplier, and no business is off limits for us. We want to be accessible to the small entrepreneurs and the startups, all the way to the larger corporations.
And I think that's so interesting when I look at a country like Israel that does this really well. The only time I've ever seen it replicated is in Chicago. Let me explain. Israel has sort of a triangular effect where they have government support, they have the entrepreneurs who are bringing all their talent, and then they have industry, large corporations and universities that are lending their expertise. And together they create and innovate and bring Israel really to the forefront of alternative proteins. And I think Chicago does this really well with the support of Ingredion and that kind of knowledge and expertise. You have the government support. The Hatchery is a program of the city of Chicago, correct, Dani? Yeah. And then you have all of this talent really from around the world because Chicago is such a global city, but housed in Chicago. And so it's such a unique combination. And I see the value in working with the large multinational companies, Kimberly, but also supporting the entrepreneurs. That's where all the great ideas come from. That's where the real innovation is. And so, there's always some fun partnering there. Maybe you can share if you've ever worked with smaller plant-based companies and what kind of help and expertise you share with them if they're not huge buyers at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I think the plant-based cook-off that we held earlier this month was a great example. Leveraging the Hatchery's network and opening it up to the very talented pool of entrepreneurs that belong there. We were able to partner with them. One of the requirements of participating in the cook-off was to engage in mentoring sessions with myself and Chef Nelson. And so, we sat down and talked to them and asked if they were, dealing with any issues or formulation challenges, and how we could help them, get through those challenges. So I think it was a great example, and for me, it was so inspirational to see the talent and the passion, at the startup level, right? Sometimes those larger corporations, you might lose some of that, but very evident in the small entrepreneurs. So great to see, and I think a good opportunity all around an event like that.
Yeah, I love the symbiosis. They talk about that in nature where you might see something like a large hippo with a small bird on its shoulder, and the two live together because the bird alerts the hippo if there's danger, and the hippo provides constant insects for the birds to eat. And I see this as the same with the large corporations and the small corporations. The large corporations really adding their expertise in terms of scaling, and it's not so easy. From the very small example of you make cookies at home and then you try to make cookies for 300 people and then you try to make cookies for 300,000 people. If you have the salt even a smidgen off, the whole thing is ruined. So scaling isn't just a question of taking the recipe and multiplying it by 10. Obviously, that you're talking, or 10 or 20 or 1,000, whatever you need to do. And then, of course, all the co-manufacturing issues and the funding issues and the, pacing yourself in growth. And then at the same time, there is that influx of energy, ideas, innovation, doing things differently, that nimbleness. I know one of the companies that Ingredion has worked with in the past is Notco, and Notco's a plant-based burger company from Latin America, but they are so nimble and they really pride themselves on being capital light, in that they don't want a bunch of factories all over the place. They want to lean on the bigger players to get their expertise and use their facilities. So it's really wonderful how Ingredion has jumped in to the local cities, but of course is also a big player on the stage. Can you share with us what some of your upcoming projects are?
Sure. I mean, you mentioned Israel. We've recently announced our partnership with InnovaPro. They're based in Israel, so very excited to introduce some offerings there and showcase those. And also exploring some blending capabilities and some systems as well. So lots of work going on here.
And I recently had the CEO of InnovaPro, Tali Nekhustan. Let's hope I said that right.
I think you did.
She was telling me about the properties of chickpeas. So InnovaPro is primarily chickpeas, and that the aquafaba that comes from boiling them, or even just the natural emulsification properties from chickpeas, can maybe replace egg whites. So I think you're going to see this functionality coming from chickpeas for cleaner, shorter labels, because of the properties that give emulsification and other things that maybe will replace methyl cellulose or other properties. So she was talking to me about some of the functionality of chickpea, and how great it will be for us not to focus on soy and wheat, which I know Ingredion does not. You focus on fava beans and chickpea and regular pea, yellow pea. Maybe quinoa might be coming down the pipeline. Maybe. Yes, it's. I have high hopes for the chickpea. Let me just say that.
You do as well.
You do as well.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, so maybe we should, because we did just have this wonderful experience together, the plant-based barbecue cook-off at the Hatchery, which took place about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we did have 5 chefs and 4 judges, which was really fun. Judges from Ingredion, but also Chicago restaurateurs and flavor companies. So we had just a bunch of chefs who were all meat eaters, and they were not an easy crowd. Would you guys agree?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And I'll say, I don't think they thought it was possible. Would you agree?
I think they were wowed. Yeah, I really do. I mean, I think they were shocked at what could, this was not your run of the mill barbecue or anything. These entrepreneurs and chefs really created these innovative offerings, and I think really showcased the breadth and depth of what you can do with plant-based proteins.
Yes. So with that, I want to bring on one of the chefs who was there. And really, I will say this is the chef that really wowed the meat eaters. Huan Xia. No, I know I can do better than that, because I know that's not exactly right. Was it okay? Okay, wait, let me try again. Huan Xia.
Perfect.
Okay. She's being kind, everybody. She is the CEO and founder of Alchemeat. And I want you to tell everyone, Juan, please. Juan, what is Alchemeat?
Yeah, Alchemeat is a premium whole cut beef, but 100% plant-based. So we want people to taste Alchemeat, tastes like beef, but feels like destiny.
But feels like destiny.
Yes.
I love that. So maybe we could share our reactions to when we all tried Alchemeat, because I certainly had some extreme reactions. Maybe I'll start with Kimberly. We had steak that day. So it was beef, but it was more cut like steak. And Kimberly, what did you think of Alchemeat?
Yeah, I mean, the chewiness component was spot on. I mean, didn't stray from regular steak at all. We were in the Hatchery. I knew I was in a plant-based protein cook-off, but I mean, you could have fooled me with that dish. Honestly, it was amazing.
Chef Nelson, what did you think?
I've been wow since the beginning. So I'm one of the few ones that probably have had it for now a while. We've been helping Juan with some of the projects she's had on hand now for various months. And from the beginning, I've just been completely floored about of the product. And the great thing is that it just keeps getting better. I mean, she continues to better the texture and the fiber structure of the protein system itself. Every time she comes in with a new recipe or a new idea that wants to concretize and make it even better. I think the last thing that she did, which completely wowed me, was that she uses starch to recreate fat marbling on the outside of the piece of meat itself. And it's just fantastic, the creativity and the amount of technical knowledge that goes into a product like this, but really to create an end consumer experience that is just absolutely fantastic.
Dani?
I echo everything that Nelson said. I was fortunate to be one of the early ones to taste Alchemeat, and I've never been a huge, as a chef, I would like to highlight vegetables as, alternatives rather than, doing, different types of meat. I remember when Impossible Burger came out, and I wasn't a huge fan of it at first. And it was because, I wanted to feel and taste real vegetables. I was so shocked when I tasted Alchemeat for the first time. The texture, it's just like meat. It tastes like meat. It has that chewiness component to it, and you feel good eating it, which was so amazing.
For me, I was amazed by the pull. So if I bite on meat, then I have to sort of fight it to tear it. And I was amazed that this was tearing. It was beyond texture. It was the pull of the meat that still had the juiciness and all these flavors that come with meat, but in my mouth it had that texture and pull of meat. So I want to get to your food scientist background, Juan, because I think more than a chef, I also think of you as bringing this technical knowledge. How long did it take you to create this product, and what is your background?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so grateful and honored. I mean, I'm kind of really overwhelmed by all of your great feedback here. Yeah, a little bit about myself, but I really want to shed light to all of people here, especially like all the early tasters with me, like especially Dani, who created name for us, right? Chef Nelson complete endorsed our recipe from Mongolia beef and more, and Kim is our gateway to the biggest ingredient company in the world, Ingredion. So I'm so grateful, and not to mention Elysabeth, the host here, how honored I'm here with all of you. My background, I am actually a veteran in food industry. I have master and PhD in food science. And since I entered the food industry, I led big projects and alternative protein from beginning, like 10 years ago for Mars. The same company makes chocolate. And then I entered the company called McCain Foods. It's a big food service company in the vegetable potato world. And about a couple of years ago, I started this company really because my firm believed in the plant-based meat. I have been vegan for 5 years for myself. That really transformed my life, both physically and mentally, made myself much more clear about what I want to do, what I want to serve to this world. So we do have patents behind our meat. Our approach really unlocks the full potential of existing technologies and solve the bottleneck to bring that traditional technology, which held back for a couple of decades, into commercialization stage. So I'm very passionate about how alchemy can do for everybody, because it's really going to unlock the alternative protein industry. Thinking about the plant-based meat is going very well. I really admire a lot of pioneer companies like Beyond the Impossible. However, the sales has been a little bit stagnant for the last couple of years, about $1.4 billion. And we believe we can get much more into the $300 billion meat industry, because right now, compared to that, we are only a toe of the elephant. How can we go from a toe of the elephant to the leg of the elephant, right? We need to go after these meat lovers. We need to go after what the meat lovers love, which is whole cut meat, steak-like texture, and which equals to 66 billion pounds of whole cut meat in the US only. So I really wish to unlock this market with alchemy meat to create all these fan favorite dishes in the beef area first, and help the consumers to be much healthier, but not compromise anything on the taste and flavor.
I'll just throw in a couple stats there to round out what she so eloquently said. We are the toe of the elephant. So the plant-based meat business, 1.4 billion, the global meat market, 1.4 trillion. So we're just 1% of the marketplace. But Bloomberg predicts that we'll be 8% by 2031. That means 162 billion. And Boston Consulting Group predicts that by 2035 we'll be 11% of the market at 290 billion. So we are on our way to being the leg of the elephant, as Juan said. But I think what's interesting here is that you're moving into steak. So the market has its fair share of burgers, and that's been done. Sausages as well. Chicken now almost seeming, I don't want to say there's saturation. We're 1% of the market, so saturation is not possible. But I'm happy to see people moving into other things like steak. Perhaps you could tell me, did you move into steak because you were missing steak, or did you see the market opportunity?
I really want to meet people where they are. And yes, as a vegan by myself, all the natural food is good. And but when I'm thinking about in others' shoes, especially meat lovers, these are the biggest market segments we have been missing. And if they really want to, I mean, they are getting much more, people are getting much more environmentally conscious and health conscious and protecting animal meat. However, aspiration is aspiration. In the morning, you may be aspired to eat all vegetables. However, at the end of the day, when you're tired and dread, you want to have some comfortable food. So from my perspective, taste is number one for food industry. We have to create this memorable taste. You have to create this kind of sensational experience for people to be into the plant-based meat area automatically, voluntarily, not only because of noble reasons, but they have to do for themselves. They have to love it. So that's the opportunity I see. This is a huge market waiting for us to do that.
Yes, 100% agreed. And of course, so do all the meat eaters. Really, if you don't have taste, what's the point? We can't talk about environment. We can't as much as we want to. And certainly I would love to talk about animal welfare all day, but there's just no point. If you don't have taste, you really can't go any further. So we have Lynn Huntley, who's watching live on Facebook, and she's asking, what about the taste? Okay, Lynn, I have to tell you, it was just like steak. Not quite yet to the point of a whole cut steak where you might have to, cut into I haven't eaten steak in so long, but a piece of steak. It was more like Mongolian steak or Mongolian beef that we were having that day. Would that be fair, Juan?
Yeah, so I would say this is our first generation product, and we are very confident from 2,000 tasters. It's best plant-based whole cut meat on the market for the texture. Our next generation will be marble beef, to your point. It'll be a little bit more real fat based. However, in Ingredion's cookout, we tried the first time our BBQ steak. I think it's quite successful according to the feedback. So you are going to have the real chewiness, firmness, elasticity, and also see the protein fibers from the steak. So people, the chefs on the judge say this is more well done type of steak. It's not like medium to rare this type of yet, but I think it's very close to that. So we think in this aspect it's exactly like the beef steak. Of course, we have room to improve.
Yes, and she's asking, when will it be available to the general public? So as we talked about scale before you joined the show, you're just beginning, really. You have a long way to go, I'm guessing, but correct me, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, to be honest, we think we are pretty close, right? We have bootstrapped all the way from POC, MVP to commercial stage, and we can right now produce them commercially in Hatchery kitchen. Really, really very thankful over there. So our next step is to scale up. So we are looking for a pilot plant scale facility to scale up about 500 kg a day in 6 months. Wow. So it's not too far away, because the unique thing about our technology is that we're using all existing food industry equipment. It's not a lot of cost to scale up. And so we'll be able to make this very cost effective as well compared to the real beef.
That's very unique. Usually it's new technology that's needed to make plant-based foods. You can use existing machinery?
Exactly. So basically we unlocked the bottleneck of existing technology. So we can use the existing machinery and plus a few new processing techniques, like Chef Nelson mentioned a little bit, to make it very unique, both in the processing, ingredients and flavor and everything all the way around. So yeah, to Lynn's question, we are launching Chicago restaurant very soon. We just need to get our volume production quickly enough to catch up. But we got at least 5 to 10 restaurants waiting to order from us. So we'll be posting on our Instagram at @OurMeat. You can follow us. We'll be announcing over there very soon.
Wonderful. And what kind of restaurants are taking the food? I'm curious. Are they American restaurants, Asian restaurants? Who's first in line?
Yeah, we have a few, so for example, there's a restaurant called Fired Up. It's a taco restaurant. It's a very popular taco restaurant. They're not only vegan, they serve every consumers. So that's one possibility. They're going to put our beef brisket on the taco, very, very yummy. Actually, Brad, who's our first place winner, do the taco as well. That's the same concept that people are having for sure. And we have a few more basically wanted to do the vegan alternative for Mongolia beef, etc. like that. But we have more application. For example, fajitas, people can do the Mexican style, beef stroganoff on the Italian style as well. So a lot of different applications for the chef creation over there.
I want to throw it to Chef Nelson here for just a minute. So I'm wondering, Chef, what did you think of the barbecue cook-off? Did go as you had hoped? And, we had so many foods represented that day. And I do want to show pictures of, indeed, the winner. It was Brad Sewell, who can't be with us today because of a family emergency. But you see those watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, you see the presentation of his taco. He did sort of a jackfruit pulled pork taco. But we also had Middle Eastern dishes there. Brad is winning the big winnings, getting the money, the big bucks there from Ingredion. Look how supportive Ingredion is. And there we have our judges. Oh, we fooled them with some alternate meat. That's Brad having fun in the kitchen. And you can see, just for everybody watching, you see all the people peering through the window who were so eager to watch all the chefs as they competed behind the glass doors in the Ingredion kitchen, that shared kitchen space that they have there. Chef Nelson, what did you think of the plant-based cook-off and how it went? Were you nervous?
Well, no, I don't know. I think, Kim and I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of these entrepreneurs prior and during the mentorship sessions. So we had a sneak peek of what was coming down the pipeline and kind of like what to expect. It was very, very interesting to me how everything kind of like netted out. All the dishes were absolutely delicious. I think everybody definitely brought their A game that day. But I really was very interesting is that we actually used the shared kitchen space for this competition. And we haven't had 5 companies cooking at the same time in that kitchen since lockdown for the COVID pandemic. So seeing the 5 competitors cook and share the kitchen was definitely kind of like magical, I'm going to say. I always told them through the mentorship, it's like, there's a limited amount of equipment. You guys have to play nice. You have to share. And they did so good. So it was great. I mean, and they all kind of like knew each other from working here at the hatchery and having to share some of the resources. But it was like a well choreographed dance as we were kind of like, getting them ready and everything was working out. It was absolutely magical, and just to see such fantastic food come out of that kitchen and being presented throughout made it all so worth it.
Yes, and we had some great cupcakes. We had some great sauces. There was this one fiery sauce that was so good. We had an Armenian dish that was so good. We had kind of a purely American comfort food dish that was so good. So we really had so much great food. And then Juan with alchemite and the steak, and Brad with his pulled pork taco. So we had a lot for the judges to think about. But I'm wondering, Kimberly, for Ingredion to sponsor an event like this, and it was really Ingredion's idea to have the barbecue cook-off, are you just hoping to bring together community, or do you just want to foster innovation? What's Ingredion's real thought here?
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely, great components of an event like this, but, we want to position ourselves, right, as a premier protein supplier. As I mentioned, from all ends of the spectrum, those large multinational companies to startups. I think it's also a good place like this to foster connections with people. 2 of our judges were from our flavor houses, right? And so Bell Flavors and Synergy. And as you mentioned, you got to have the taste, right? It's, it's going to go nowhere unless there's taste. So I think, there's synergies there. There's ways to partner. So, lots of networking occurred at an event like this. Lots of connections were made. So, really just a beneficial event overall.
Yeah, I so agree with that, because you never know where the next great idea is going to come from. It often comes through sharing the kitchen or working on something, and you never know where it's going to go, and by bringing people together. And we all had that lapse in COVID, and now we're back at it. So it was just a thrill to be at the cook-off. I was the host of the day, and I could just hear someone that Kimberly works with, Mike Natale, in the audience, and saying like, okay, this is just year number 1. We're back here every year. So I do think it will be an annual event. So maybe we'll open it up to the public. The hatchery can seat about maybe 200. Could we get 200 in there, Dani?
It's possible, but we
150?
still have to evaluate.
Yes, right, fair enough.
Protocols, we've had to make some changes, but stay tuned.
Yes, fair enough. Well, as we wrap up here, I'd love to hear a quick question from Kimberly and Dani, and then I'll go around for an exit question for everybody. But starting with Dani and then on to Kimberly. Dani, maybe you could give the local perspective and Kimberly the global perspective. There's been lots of talk about plant-based. Is it down? Where is it going? What does it mean? Was it a fad? Has it seen its day, et cetera? Dani, maybe you could give us a perspective locally, what you're seeing in Chicago for interest in plant-based.
Absolutely. From a local perspective, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Or I'm sorry, I don't think it's going to go down. I think it's only going to increase. I think a lot of chefs, especially as we're seeing people who are conscious of their health and also wanting to be more inclusive with their environment and also locally sourcing things, people are eager to be able to highlight local flavors. And a lot of it stems from here in Illinois specifically is that we're a very big agricultural hub. In Garfield Park, we partner with the Garfield Park Community Council, which has community farms all around the neighborhood and community gardens. And so people are looking for more opportunities and pathways. So that's where I see it going.
Yeah, I was amazed. Of course, I split my time between the two cities, and I'm just amazed every time I go back to Chicago. There's a new vegan restaurant. I mean, and Chicago's such a restaurant city. Those who may not know, we had the James Beard Awards for several years, taking it from New York. And there's lots to love about really creative, high-end and like comfort food in Chicago. But there's always a new vegan restaurant around the corner, which is really pretty amazing. Kimberly, from a global perspective, where do you see the plant-based trends going, despite the headlines?
Yeah, I think, I'll echo Dani, not a trend, more of a movement, right? I mean, it's here to stay. And I think one of the biggest value props is the sustainability, right? I mean, from a water perspective, I think the latest statistic I heard is 43 gallons of water is required to produce 1 pound of pulse crops versus over 1,800 gallons of water. So for it to produce beef. So, 4 to 7 times less energy to produce 1 pound of pulse versus animal protein. So it just really staggering and compelling figures there. So, just like on the local Chicago level, there's a sustainability story that just extends globally. Wheat prices are going up. We have to find a more efficient way to feed the world. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. Another major Chicago company that I forgot to mention, Greenleaf Foods, which is Field Roast and Light Life. So not small companies. The CEO of Maple Leaf, which is in Canada and is a meat company and owns Greenleaf, said that they're expecting plant-based growth to be long-term at 10 to 15%. So those are good growth numbers. They're not COVID growth numbers, which are freaky at 40% growth and obviously not sustainable over time, but 10 to 15%, quite healthy growth rate that lots of people would be happy to make money on, honestly. So I think that's where a lot of folks get involved in this sector, and I think it will be quite promising in that respect. Okay, as we go around the room, I want to ask everybody, I'll start with Juan, 2 quickie questions. What is your favorite snack, and what are we always going to find in your fridge? I'm going from the very bottom counterclockwise, starting with Juan. What's your favorite snack, and what are we always going to find in your fridge?
Wow. I actually do a lot of raw vegetables and fruits, and because as a vegan, protein is important. I mean, other than elk meat, I actually eat raw peanuts. It's a little bit weird. It's sprouted raw peanuts. So I sprout those peanuts, so they still have life. Actually, it's very nourishing, and people don't know about peanuts. Sometimes it's a hidden fact. It has about 26% protein. It even has higher protein than some of the nuts. So it gives me a lot of energy, not only the protein, because of this liveness. There are some live enzymes in the peanuts as well. It gets me energized too. So
that's a good one. I've never had a sprouted peanut. I'm gonna get my hands on some sprouted peanuts. What's always gonna be in your fridge?
So I also make tempeh, homemade tempeh.
Of course you do.
because because you can use, like you talk about different beans like chickpeas, the ingredient is promoting. Yeah, you can see my closet or fridge, like bunch of 20, 30 different kind of beans and legumes. And that's kind of probably my next project. I make tempeh in very different ways. Like I combine like 10 different beans, and they give me different flavor because fermentation process. For example, if you put even okra into it, it produces some fish flavor. I was thinking to patent that. I mean, anyway, that's kind of something in the later. But those are very natural, fermented, very high of probiotics, high of B12, the vegans are all need, high in protein as well, and has this savory taste, like mushroom type taste. It's my favorite.
Let's connect after class because this is very interesting. And I think I know some investors interested in that. I'm really not kidding. So let's connect. And are you raising capital, Juan?
Yeah, we actually getting a great offer. We already are raising. Like we haven't really started raising, but there's a lot of company could, because they tasted product. Tasting is believing. And we started like this due diligence process like right away. So we actually already got offer. We may be negotiating a little bit, but we are very happy. We are in a great position of raising. We may be able to close in a couple months.
Wow. So very excited. Everybody stay tuned. And if you want to get connected to Juan, everybody just hit me up and I'll let you in on, maybe you'll sneak in on a deal. Who knows? Chef Nelson, okay, what is your favorite snack? What are we always going to find in your fridge?
So I love nuts. I always have nuts around all the time. Actually, one of my favorite companies here at the Hatchery, other than Alchemy, of course, it's making their own nut butters. And I literally keep jars of their nut butters like all over. This one empty, of course. But I do love nuts. I love peanuts. I keep powdered peanut that I eat by the spoonful here. So
in the powder form.
Yeah, I love it, and I just eat it like powdered peanut butter and stuff like that. I absolutely love it. And then you would always find in my refrigerator mustard. I love mustard as a condiment, as an emulsifier, as flavor added. I mean, I think mustard can like do anything. So I keep like 5 or 6 different types of mustards in the refrigerator, and I absolutely love mustard. So.
I love mustard, like the seed mustard and the spicy mustard and the yellow mustard. I do a mild Dijon mustard when I make plant-based tuna fish. I don't use mayonnaise. Vegan mayonnaise, I use mustard. So I feel you on the mustard. Dani, of course I want to know your snack and what's always in your fridge, but first I want to know, can anyone apply to the Hatchery? Do you have to live in Chicago to apply? How does that work?
So you do have to be in the Chicagoland area to, one, utilize our facilities as well as our programming. We do have, our classes are open to the public. Like I said, we have moved into that hybrid model. So even if you're in California and you're looking for more support, more understanding of any classes regarding the food and beverage business, as well as some other industry agnostic topics, from marketing, HR support, financial support, those types of things, you can still tune in. But in order to be a member, you do have to be a Chicago resident. Okay,
so I'll just have everybody focus below the screen, what's scrolling by. You'll see that it's thehatcherychicago.org. That website's right on your site. Okay, what's your favorite snack? What are we always going to find in your fridge?
Oh, that's the hardest question. Those are the hardest questions for me. And it's really because I get to work with so many amazing entrepreneurs. A lot of my friends joke all the time because whenever I'm around, I bring in all of the new products and new snacks and things like that they would never imagine possible. I am a huge fan of crunchy snacks. So I did mention Carolyn's Crisp is also one that I usually have on hand. Nemi Snacks is another one, which is also plant-based. It's a cactus-based crunchy snack. And it's female-owned and minority-owned business. She's from Mexico and highlighting the roots of this ingredient with amaranth as well as other superfood ingredients. She has one that is a spirulina lime flavor that is so addictive. And then she also has a churro flavor. So you could have the best of both worlds with sweet and savory. So that's probably right now my favorite snack, but they're just it's constantly moving.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And then in my fridge, oh boy, 2 things you can always find in my fridge is lots of cheese. I know this is plant-based, and I will say there is a really great company here in Chicago that's making plant-based cheeses called Cheese and Thank You. It is phenomenal.
I've been trying to find them. I couldn't find them anywhere. Their website was down for a while.
Yeah,
I
she's
can't
in the
track
middle
them.
of scaling and building her, as we talked about how
talked
hard
about.
it is. But she is now in all Whole Foods in the Chicagoland area, so you can certainly find her there. And then the other thing I always have is hot sauce.
Me too. Yeah, hot sauce always in my fridge. And one of my very favorite snacks is air popped popcorn and Bragg's amino acid. I know that sounds weird. Put the Bragg's in a spray bottle. It's my way of like losing weight. I get the crunchy, salty snack without any oil. I air pop the popcorn and then I spray. I got this from Dr. Greger, and I spray my Bragg's amino acid all over the popcorn. I'm a little bit of a freak. Okay, Kimberly, what is your favorite snack? What are we always going to find in your fridge?
My favorite recent snack is probably Kite Hill's blueberry yogurt. Tried it probably a few months ago, and yeah, just loved it, especially the blueberry flavor. I've tried other flavors, but just always go back to blueberry. Helps jog my memory. And then you'll always find hummus in my fridge. I'm not, in full disclosure, I'm not a chef. I'm not a good cook. So hummus is just really easy to have as, a meal, like throw in some pretzels and chop up some veggies and just dip away. So
yeah, hummus is like your best friend. It's
Yeah.
reliable. It's always there. It's comforting. It tastes good. You know it's going to be great. Yeah, it's like a pal for life. You said something before we end, Kimberly. I want to highlight this. You said that plant-based really brings sustainability to the forefront of the conversation. A recent article just came out, research, I should say, came out from the Boston Consulting Group saying that plant-based innovation is 3 times to 40 times more impactful at reducing greenhouse gas emissions than other green sectors like alternative building materials, alternative road transportation like cars, and even alternative aviation. Primarily, that's because plant-based innovation uses fewer resources, like you were saying, in terms of water, land, crops, deforestation. So uses fewer resources and is very easy to switch out. So you think how easy it is to say, hey, I'm going to not get a meat burger. I'm going to get a plant-based burger. I'm not going to get a meat steak. I'm going to get Alka-Meat. You see how easy that would be. Whereas, if I'm going to get a new car, $40,000, even with Biden's new plan, it's still an enormous outlay. To build in a completely new building with new materials, an enormous outlay. To build a new airplane, an enormous outlay. To get yourself a plant-based steak, not so tough. So Alka-Meat's going to be out soon. Everybody stay tuned to that. You can go to her Instagram to find news of Alka-Meat and when you can get it in Chicago and beyond. I want to thank everybody at the Hatchery, Dani and Chef Nelson, for all that you do, for really nurturing innovative talents and creative talents like Juan's, and really making their ideas and aspirations see the light of day and beyond. So thank you for all you do. If anybody wants information about the Hatchery, the classes that you can follow, I think classes are free. Do I have that right? Is it free?
There are some classes that are paid, but if you are a resident of the west side of Chicago, classes are free. If you're a member, there are discounts available. So just reach out to us. And we also, real quickly, we have announced our annual fundraiser, which actually ties into your theme of the Chicago World Fair. So we're actually, the theme is the Hatchery Chicago's World Fair.
Oh, that's great. When is this? Is it an in-person event?
This will be an in-person event at the Hatchery on December 8th. So we will be putting it out there on our website in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for it.
Everybody, thehatcherychicago.org. And really, I want to thank Ingredion, because it really does all start with Ingredion. It's Ingredion's impetus to get into the plant-based sector, to support companies large and small, to support on a global level, to support on a local level, to be there for the local entrepreneurs, right down to the small ones who are just starting out, to be there for the community and really help them with these sustainable ingredients and novel ingredients, not just monocropped soy, for example, but really novel ingredients in the plant-based space, to see a healthier food supply for people, the planet, and animals. I am so deeply grateful to all of you. You four stay put, don't go anywhere, but everybody else on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, I will see you all in New York for Plant-Based World Expo. Until then, everybody, thanks for all you do.